Lawrence Sprouse, you're on the Bible Forum. I want to take you around the world to Russia, Iran, China. And I'm going to speak to you right out of the Bible, right out of Ezekiel chapter 38. The core of this comes from Jerusalem Post. They're telling us that Russia plans to hold joint naval drills with Iran and China in the Indian Ocean later this month. This is February 2021. This according to the RIA news agency. It cites Moscow's ambassador to Tehran as saying on Monday that the three countries held similar naval drills in the Indian Ocean in December 2019. At the same time, U.S. President Joe Biden has ordered the USS Nimitz aircraft carrier to return home sometime in October. U.S. Naval Institute News says that the Nimitz was operating within the U.S. 7th Fleet off the coast of West India when it got the order to go home after nearly 8 months on the water. Evangelical Christians in France are expressing what is called unease as they see how the national government inflames the rhetoric against their churches. The French Minister of the Interior, Gerald Darmanin, in an interview with TVC News, said, quote, "Evangelicals are a very important problem," only to add, obviously not a problem of the same nature as that of Islamism, which makes terrorist attacks and deaths. The issue here is an anti-separatism law expected to be passed soon, apparently outlawing religious groups, most notably Islam, outlawing them from finding moral religious laws that require them to reject the republic and live according to their own rules. Now, keep in mind, the Bible teaches Christians to obey the law of the land, whatever the land is, Romans chapter 13. Now, it's obviously not when it requires you to violate God's laws, God's principles, but to live at peace with all men and with your government. The minister, however, insisted, quote, "We cannot discuss with people who refuse to write on paper that the law of the republic is superior to the law of God." At heart at all of this is the need to balance religious doctrine and practices with French law and social discourse. The issue? Whether or not evangelical Christian churches and people have the same rights as Muslims, and whether evangelicalism is fanning the fire to something they call socio-political conflicts. Conflicts that have nothing to do with the beliefs and actions of evangelical churches. It appears France is toying with the idea of limiting religious expression, and at issue here is a proposed law to stop radical Islamism. To do so, it appears certain lawmakers have equated Christianity with Islam. Either that or they are seeking to pass a law that governs both. And we get this from what they teach, what Islam and Christianity are teaching, what they say about the relationship between religion and government. Apparently, after the terrorist attack in October against a secondary school teacher for showing cartoons of Muhammad, France has doubled its efforts to stop radical Islamism. The star measure of the anti-separatism law, officially a law reinforcing the respect for the principles of the Republic, has been closely analyzed by several faith groups. In January, the French Evangelical Alliance expressed again its growing concern that such a law will be used to restrict the presence of all religious groups in the public sphere, no matter if their ideas represent a threat to coexistence or not. The same for CNEF, National Council of Evangelicals in France. They're asking the government to look for the most constructive solutions possible in the common interest without throwing any particular suspicion on faith groups and believers. The context for all this is that apparently on January 10th, the Minister of Citizenship, a woman, Marlène Schiappa, claimed on TV Channel 3 in France that, quote, there are more and more families influenced by evangelical trends from the United States, which ask, as in the United States, for virginity certificates, end of quote. Evangelicals strongly denied this accusation and called Minister Schiappa to apologize for her words. Now, it appears there's a move in the French government to appease Islam by equating it with Christianity and applying the same rules. Do French Christians have virginity certificates for their daughters? Or is it just Islamists who do this? Is there a move within the French government to placate Islam by painting Christianity with the same brush? Evangelicals, Youth for Christ, National Council of Evangelicals in France, along with other evangelical groups, are insisting that these efforts are meaningless in terms of their beliefs and practices. We don't do this. They say evangelicals are respectful of the law and the Republican authorities, end of quote. But evangelical churches cannot be used as an argument to defend the liberticide, the death of liberty bill that they have protested. The spokesman of the CNEF said France will win nothing in its fight against Islamic separatism by equating Christianity with Islam. The first has shaped this nation with the republic, which the republic has inherited. The second wants to replace it. Just after becoming president in France in 2017, Emmanuel Macron said that, quote, religious expression must not be repressed in the private sphere, end of quote, presenting a view of secularism that evangelicals then described as positive. In fact, surveys showed that Macron and his newly elected En Marche party had been the most voted among Protestant Christians. The warning? That the ongoing fight against radical Islamism should not tempt the government to restrict religious freedom in France. And in Tanzania? Did you hear about the outbreak of the new mystery disease in Tanzania? What about the alarming new outbreak in the Congo? Or the amazing scientific developments in South Africa? Apparently, fearsome new bugs are constantly being cooked up in labs all over the planet. And it's inevitable that there will be more accidents that result in more of these bugs getting released in the future. We've already seen how a single virus can rapidly spread throughout the entire world. And it's just a matter of time before a pandemic comes along that's going to wipe out tens of millions of people. Is that fear-mongering? Perhaps. But this is what the scientific community apparently believes. A mystery illness which causes patients to vomit blood has killed at least 15 in Tanzania, and the officials don't know why. They did suspend the doctor that first reported the outbreak. They did that because they said he caused a panic. Now keep in mind, the doctor in charge of the lab where coronavirus is believed to have begun was one of the first to die from the disease. How many other lab workers contracted this virus? More than 50 people have been hospitalized in the south of the country due to the unidentified condition, which also causes nausea in sufferers. Felicia Kisandu, the chief medical officer for the Chunya district, described how patients vomit blood and die when they get to the hospital too late. At this point, officials are insisting that there will not be a wider outbreak. However, these same officials maintain there is no COVID in their country. This when there is a tremendous amount of evidence to the contrary. There's also a new Ebola outbreak in Congo, creating a tremendous amount of concern. Health officials in Congo confirmed the outbreak in the country's east on Sunday, the fourth in less than 3 years. On February 3rd, a woman died in Butembo town in North Kivu province. The woman from a nearby village in Biana felt sick for a few days before being tested in a clinic. She then went to the hospital in Butembo, but died before receiving the results. The government has begun tracing everyone who came in contact with her to try to eradicate the epidemic as soon as possible. Listen to the 2 words, epidemic, tracing. You want to know how to get a hold of the names and addresses of everybody in the world? This is a good way to do it. I know, it's kind of a far out theory. You might be surprised one day. The Bible talks about it.